What's hiding underneath things can be scary. Underwater, under your bed, especially what's under your carpet. Except when you get new carpet from Carpet One Floor and Home. After tearing up your old carpet, they'll vacuum and apply Health Annex antimicrobial to your subfloor, disinfecting and killing mold, mildew, and any remaining general awfulness. Carpet One Floor and Home goes the extra mile to protect you, your family, and your home. Carpet One Floor and Home in Columbia, making your home beautiful, guaranteed.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Tuesday, April the 4th. This is Election Day. I'm glad to have you with us today. We've got a couple of ladies who are passionate about their organization and what they do. We have Kristin Bowen and Catey Terry. Good to have both of you ladies with us. Moms Demand Action. And some people may have a misconception as to what your organization is all about. Moms Demand Action. Your organization is not about taking everybody's gun away from them.
No.
I think that needs to be stated up front. People have had guns from the beginning, and you're not trying to do that. You're trying to just come across with some common sense.
Yes, and that's absolutely our values are in alignment with the Second Amendment. In fact, many of us in our organization are gun owners, but we know that there's so much more we could be doing in this country to protect people and to save lives. So we are the largest grassroots organization devoted to gun violence prevention. Mm-hmm. We talk about gun safety.
Just when you talk about gun safety, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? I can't remember. But it was less than a month. A little 3-year-old child shot a 4-year-old child.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A sister or a brother.
Right, and we're very
and killed him.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very careful with our language with Moms Demand Action. We don't call that an accident. That was entirely preventable, and that was 100% the parents' fault for keeping a weapon that could kill a 3 or 4-year-old.
Yes, that was inexcusable.
It's inexcusable, and those people need to be held accountable, although I would add that, of course, their lives are ruined anyway.
Right.
But that was preventable, and that's what we talk about when we talk about common sense, gun advocacy, and safety, where we support the Second Amendment. As Kristin mentioned, many of those of us in leadership in moms own weapons, but the point is to store them safely at all times. And we've got a couple myths that we'd like to talk about.
We are part of an organization that it's also important to say is part of a larger umbrella organization that partners with elected officials, mayors, law enforcement, students, and survivors coming together to work on this issue. And we represent sort of what we think of as the overwhelming majority of Americans, and especially important to say in this state, in Missouri, people who want to see something done to address the horrific kinds of shootings that you're describing, Paul. So we thought today we could talk a little bit about some of the myths that are around this issue.
Okay, so what's some of them? What's the number one myth?
The number one myth is, I think because of the headlines that we see and the conversations that we hear around gun violence, it's the idea that mass shootings or school shootings are a primary cause for gun death in this country. And in fact, that's not the case. Although those horrific shootings like the ones that happen, that grab headlines, like in Uvalde, Texas, or in Buffalo, and they break our hearts, and they change the conversation. In fact, that's less than 1% of the gun deaths in this country. The overwhelming majority of gun death is actually gun suicide. In our state, it's almost 2/3 of the gun death is gun suicide.
Suicide?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so, when we talk about preventing gun death, we want to make sure that it's clear to people we're talking about ending gun violence in all of its forms and how it impacts people in every community, urban, rural, suburban. Gun violence is an issue that affects all of us. So that's one of the myths that I think some people are surprised to learn about our state.
And it circles back to safety, because very often, and we're not psychologists, but very often suicides are impulsive. Somebody who wants to kill themselves today might not want to kill themselves tomorrow. But access
Too late then.
Yeah, access to a weapon when a person is feeling whatever they're feeling, that life is not worth going on, makes suicides with guns over 95% successful. And when a gun is not involved, when people try other methods, it's less. They very often live. More than 95% of the time they live if it's pills or other methods. So when we talk about gun safety, that's what we mean, keeping everybody safe.
What's another myth?
So another myth we wanted to talk about is, I think, something that a lot of us hear, whether you're a volunteer in Moms or not, you see it on social media. It's the idea that nothing can be done. And, that this is a problem that is hopeless and that nothing can be done and that there's no point in taking action or lobbying lawmakers.
Something can be done.
Well, the reality is, the facts are that in states with stronger gun safety laws, they work to save lives. So there's actual proof, because our country's is made up of a network of gun safety laws. It's really dependent on where you live. So if you live in Missouri, where we have some of the loosest gun laws in the nation, we are much more higher risk here in Missouri than in other states where, for example, in Illinois, they have much stronger gun safety legislation.
Is there an age limit that you cannot buy a gun?
So this has been much in the media this session, Paul. You've probably seen our lawmakers were in Jefferson City debating this problem because there's currently no law that allows police to take firearms away from kids, and so toddlers.
Police cannot come in and take a loaded gun away from a 7 or 8 year old.
They can question that child, but if the child can say with a straight face that this firearm wasn't stolen, that it's theirs, then the police have to give it back to them. And we're seeing this is really an escalating crisis, especially in our cities where there are so many illegal guns on the street that kids can get access to. It's really a frightening public safety concern for people in our larger communities. And so it has been discussed in the legislature. I'm a little bit optimistic, guardedly optimistic, that our lawmakers will maybe sit up and take notice, because this is such an extreme. We shouldn't be known for this in Missouri. And I think lawmakers on both sides of the aisle see this as a problem. So fingers crossed.
And
what can people do if they're concerned about it?
Well, the number one thing, and it's very interesting you're asking today, the number one thing people can do is vote, is pay attention to the candidates they vote for. And if someone is representing you in Jefferson City who has differing views or is willing to have children have guns and that doesn't speak to you, vote those people out.
Right.
It's really important to take action voting. You can reach out to us. We can help tell you where some gun sense candidates are. And the other thing I would say is people just need to be proactive about their own safety. And for example, if you let children go to sleepovers or weekends with grandparents out in the country, for example, sort of a rural situation, make sure that you ask about people's personal gun safety
and if they're
practices.
If they're locked up safely and not left out.
Ammunition and weapons are locked up safely, yeah.
Okay, ladies, if people want more information about your organization, it's momsdemandaction.org. Okay?
Correct. Yep.
All right, and the voice is just about ready to go in there. Okay.
Thank you.
But we ran out of time.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.